Hey, how's it going? It's your boy, Challenger Coach Mortiarty here, bringing you the 10.12 pick of the patch video, where we go over our top meta and upcoming picks, so let's get right into it. First up, we've got the Bear. Volibear is one of the strongest junglers on low elo currently, and he still does okay in Diamond compared to his past version, which is already an improvement. I have seen some discussion though about his current setup and what's going to make him the strongest, and that totally makes sense because he's a new champion and people haven't completely tested him out. Sifting through some of the data though, I have noticed there are 4 options: Predator, Conquer, Press the Attack, and Aftershock for his keystones. I did actually receive some messages about other people actually suggesting that Predator is the best option because it helps us early ganks, but in terms of the stats, Conquer, Press the Attack, and Aftershock all do significantly better than Predator. In particular, Conquer is the most popular and performs pretty much the best, although Press the Attack is slightly less popular but has a slightly higher win rate. You can consider them pretty much tied, although Press the Attack does do better the higher up the ladder you go. Aftershock also performs better than Predator, although its play rate is the lowest and it really only performs that much better in high diamond. After that, in terms of itemization, Cinderhulk seems to be his best setup, and then after that going pretty much tanky, very similar to his old setup. Although this new version of Volibear does better with hybrid damage items or just straight up damage items like Trinity Force and then Wit's End. So if you snowballed and you got that extra income, I highly recommend trying out those 2 items and then going full tank. Our next champion is going to be Darius. Although it is pretty common to call champions overpowered these days, pretty much everything is overpowered apparently, but Darius might actually be applicable for this particular statement. Ghost is far too powerful on him, especially with the reset mechanic. Just watch the clip in the background, pay attention to it, watch how long Ghost lasts. It is crazy for him during the teamfight phase, and it's definitely not broken at all or anything like that. Anyways, for this setup, the most common option is Sorcery Secondary with Nimbus, Cloak, and Celerity. Makes sense because he is going to abuse Flash and Ghost, and he wants as much mobility as possible because his damage output is just that high. But due to the unflinching changes on this particular patch, many people have begun to swap to Resolve, as it does have a higher percent win rate, although it does have 1/4 the pick rate of Sorcery Secondary. So it's something interesting to test out because with unflinching and then also Legend Tenacity, you don't ever have to buy Merc Treads, and so you can just go Tobbies every single game. But Adam, doesn't Tenacity have some kind of diminishing returns? It does, and for whatever reason, it's not consistent among different rune choices. So some rune choices have higher percent chance of diminishing returns on Tenacity, and in this particular case you're really only going to lose 2%, so it's not that big of a deal. It doesn't matter either way though, because I think Darius could probably take Sudden Impact and Ingenious Hunter Secondary and still win, because that's just how strong he is. For the mid lane, our first choice is actually going to be Annie. She's an incredibly strong champion at the moment after her buffs, and she still isn't that popular because, I mean, she's Annie. But her most common setups right now are Electrocute and Comet, and they're both very consistent and they are going to work for you. But after the changes to Predator, many people have been trying out this rune on Annie, and it's really strong. It allows her to roam easier, set up ganks easier, and because the channel doesn't get interrupted and you can actually take it from the beginning of the game, you can even start boots at level 1 and catch people off guard with very early roams or very early gank setup, or you can even just roam into the enemy jungle and kill the jungler with it. It's actually pretty fun. Electrocute is still going to be the standard for her, but this version of Annie is good if you don't think you can solo kill your lane opponent because it's something like Xerath, and you just want to roam more and actually engage more during the mid game. Oh, Philios, you're up next. After all the nerfs, this champion is still one of the most overpowered marksmen when mastered. He got even better once people actually swapped to going IE first over Essence Reaver, and then he got even better once Lulu and other enchanters became meta. And then the same 200 years of experience were clearly used to balance Death's Dance, because any champion who builds it in this particular meta, I don't care what champion you are, becomes pretty damn strong, and Abellio has begun to pick it up 3rd or 4th item instead of Bloodthirster. He has become literally unkillable when he's got a Lulu and Death's Dance completed, and he's still one of the highest DPS champions in the entire game, even when he's going a defensive item 3rd. Putting in the time to master this champion is currently well worth it, because any champion, like I said, in this meta capable of using Death's Dance is gonna be strong, which is why Ezreal and Aphelios are at the top of the marksman list. So if you're playing a marksman champion that doesn't build Death's Dance, you're behind the times. Speaking of marksman champion, one of the most popular and strongest marksmen that no one talks about is actually Jhin. He holds a 52.5% win rate and a 12% pick rate around gold, and this pretty much stays the same into platinum and diamond. He does a lot better now that people started going IE into rapid fire over Storm Razor early on. Most of the marksmen now that are actually crit oriented, if they can get a 2-item power spike off of IE and then a Zeal item, they're gonna be doing pretty decent. But he has been taking Fleet Footwork as his keystone for forever now, but a new Halo Blade setup has come up that has allowed him to be a little bit stronger in the early game, a little bit stronger in the mid game in favor of a little less utility. Jhin does not gain attack speed outside of leveling, that's one thing to note. Instead, when he gets the attack speed from Halo Blades, it actually gives Jhin a lot more AD, and it also gives him more movement speed when he crit. This means Halo Blades gives Jhin a stronger landing phase and more upfront burst on his first 3 bullets, so he can finish people off with his 4th shot. This setup does have a higher win rate than the standard one, and it is growing in popularity, but I should mention that it has lower sample size, and oftentimes lower sample size will have bigger win rate variance, so just keep that in mind, although it does look like a promising setup because upfront damage and pick potential in solo queue is the king rather than utility. I mean, unless you're an enchanter who scales really well into team fights like Lulu, of course. I mean, I did just mention her, but our next pick of the patch is going to be Lulu, and she is a god tier support on his patch. She's actually so strong in general, people in competitive play have been flexing her to mid lane, but not only that, both in China and Korean solo queue currently, there is a surge in top lane Lulu. Yeah, I know that's back. Even someone like Dopa has been testing out top lane Lulu as well, even in solo queue. But for support specifically, Guardian has made her even stronger and easier to use. It makes her far too hard to burst down, or even the person that she's trying to keep alive, such as an Abellio who just, face checks a Syndra for whatever reason, and since it doesn't randomly trigger anymore, you're not gonna get your Guardian procced off by a random Ezreal Q, for example. It's only gonna be used when it's most needed, which is incredibly powerful. Pair her with Aphelios, Vayne, Twitch, or Kog'Maw for some pretty free wins into Ezreal abusers. These champions, when paired with Lulu, simply outscale and 2v8 teamfights. And finally, my favorite champion in the whole game, Twisted Fate, is up next. He is one of the most popular mids in the world currently. Less so in North America for whatever reason, but almost every other region plays it a lot, especially in high elo, ranking in the top 3 most picked mid laners. Now in terms of setup, the E still prefers the dopest style of AP with either Spellbook or Electrocute based on the matchup. EU and EU West in particular, due to the X rank 1 player in Twisted Fate main Jetsu, favored the newer hybrid Trinity Force Gunblade Twisted Fate with Omnistone, which does sound weird, but it is pretty good. It is a way more aggressive and snowball oriented TF style, and even Nemesis from Fnatic pulled it out in his first LEC game this season, showing that this style does have validity even at the highest level of play. Personally, when choosing between the two, AP is the safer and more consistent option. It provides more utility with the wave clear, and it actually takes towers faster than the trendy Omnistone version. The hyper damage Twisted Fate though does snowball significantly harder and carries harder when ahead, but it does do very little from behind, so it's higher risk. You can also mix the two a bit because Knight, one of the best mid laners in all of LPL, and Showmaker from LCK, who is currently rank 1 and rank 3 on the Korean solo queue ladder, both have been playing a lot of Twisted Fate on their accounts, and they favor an AP setup with a rapid fire cannon third. So check out all 3 styles on our champion pages and see which one you like better. Since we're on the topic of really good high elo champions, let's talk about Rek'Sai next. Rek'Sai is a staple of the jungle. She is just one of those champions that snowballs incredibly hard and destroys the early game and looks to end the game before anyone has a chance to do anything in return. She's got 2 very popular setups. One is Conqueror and then Halo Blades. For Conqueror, it's more for carrying yourself. It's better in team fights. It's better in longer fights and skirmishes. It's better in low elo because fights tend to last longer and you really want to carry on your own. Halo Blades is to let your laners carry because it lets you pull off ganks a lot easier and it puts more upfront damage. And it's the one that's more popular in high elo, although people tend to mix and match depending on what team comps they have. Either setup, it doesn't really matter. The important part here is the itemization. One of the setups that is best for solo queue and one that has been popular in high elo, and it's been used by Blabber from C9, and it's a very hard carry style, is actually Edge of Night second. This allows Rek'Sai to be more reliable in terms of the engage of the spell shield, the ganks don't get destroyed because you get interrupted out of your tunnel, and the 1v1 potential is even stronger. It still does have the HP to survive when you tunnel into a fight, but more importantly, you got the damage to completely one-shot people, meaning you don't actually need the CDR from a Black Cleaver. Black Cleaver on Rek'Sai is more of a utility teamfight item, and when you pick up the Edge Knight first, it allows you to snowball way easier and contribute to the early game, which is all you're good for anyways. So if you want to carry on Rek'Sai, I highly recommend you try out Edge of Night on her, and you'll definitely see a big difference in your gameplay. Up next, we got Singed, who is a bit of a sleeper pick, both in the sense that it's not that popular, but also playing him or versus him puts many people to sleep, including myself. He's super strong on this patch though, having many favorable meta matchups like into Wukong, Shen, Ornn, Jax, and even being one of the few champions who can beat up a set. I've mentioned people go mostly Conqueror and AP on him nowadays, but the more recent innovation is actually taking Ghost on him because it's even better due to the buffs it received. His most common Sunburn spell setup currently is Ghost Ignite or Flash plus Ignite, which works fantastic versus all those Conqueror abusers who are just spam healing and grabbing a bunch of healing items and looking to just win games like that. But a new setup with Ghost Flash has become increasingly popular as well, and it's doing really well on patch 10.12. Although it does hurt your 1v1 ability, this isn't really what Cinch is all about, because this setup increases Cinch's annoyance factor, which I believe is the stat that he scales the best off of according to our internal data. This combo allows him to escape ganks easier, escape in the 1v1s easier, while also having more engage options for the teamfight phase. So I'd try this one out if you like the idea of playing Cinch and being as annoying as possible. Our last pick of the patch for this video is actually going to be Taric, who is another sleeper pick. He has been strong for most of the season, but only became highly valued when Kalista was buffed and she became one of his amazing lane partners, along with things like Twitch, Kog'Maw, Abellio, and Vayne. In particular though, that Twitch Taric combo is nasty. The stun from stealth is just not balanced. If you can ever pull off that combo, try it out, trust me, it's really, really good. Anyway, after he received some nerfs for his association with Master Yi, his popularity kind of died down, and so did his win rate. Riot decided to overbuff Guardian this patch though, and this brought Taric back to life. He's currently sitting at around a 53% win rate in gold, and this pretty much stays the same the higher up the ladder you go, but his pick rate is still pretty low at around a 3%, and it hasn't gone back up yet, so picking him up now can be a really good way to abuse an undervalued pick. I mean, people are still too busy picking Lulu or Yuumi, but those are banned pretty frequently now, and Taric is a really good option. If you have any of the marksmen that I listed above on your team, you should definitely consider picking up Taric, especially if they have a die-focused comp with things like Leona or Nautilus. If you lock in Taric in that situation, you're gonna get some pretty free wins. He is a great counter pick in this meta, and he's one of the best scaling champions period out of anyone, not just supports. That's all I got though, so thank you everyone for watching our 10.12 pick of the patch video. Be sure to check out our other content on this channel as well as at Mobalytics.gg. As always, I'm your host, LLStylez, and may the new and old Silky Gods be with you.